Welcome, everyone. We're here for the public speaker badge, and our guest today is Bill Rogers.
Thank you very much indeed. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Today, we're going to have some fun learning how to talk out loud, or in my particular case, how to talk out loud for fun and profit. That's right. It's what I do for a living. I am Bill Rogers, and I know that there's a good chance that you've seen me somewhere before, or you've at least heard me. You've heard me at places like the Garner Holt place in the Inland Empire, or you've heard me on PBS, or maybe if you watch Redwood Kings, you've heard me on the intro to that. I also fly around on Delta and talk about music that you're hearing on while you're flying. And of course, there are lots of other things that you recognize as well. But the one that is most impressive to young people is the fact that indeed, I am the voice of Disneyland. I'm the announcer that says, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is a good time had by all. We're here at Disneyland, the most magical place on earth." Now that's a great gig, or job, as they say. Either way, it's a whole lot of fun for me, and I hope when you go to Disneyland that you'll hear me and say, "I know that guy." So let's talk about public speaking and getting a feeling for performing solo. I understand that sometimes you are not comfortable with talking to adults and, especially the older members of your family. That's not difficult to understand for me at all. It wasn't until I was like 13 that I finally got around to talking on the radio. And that can be difficult as well, because you sometimes wonder whether or not you're doing the right thing. So make it easy on yourself and teach, and at the same time, learn how to read out loud. You can teach by reading to your younger siblings, your little brothers and sisters. They are a very easy, wonderful audience because they don't criticize a whole lot. And the fact that you're reading their favorite book doesn't hurt anything either. It's a good thing. And you get a chance to learn how to read out loud a lot, because they'll bug the heck out of you. I promise you. They'll want you to read everything for them. Good idea, huh? All right. So there's that. And as you go along, you'll get a chance to spend more time reading to adults, because you'll feel better about the fact that indeed you can read all of the things. And if you've been reading Dr. Seuss to your little brothers and sisters, heavens knows you got lots of good training. But what do you sound like when you're doing that reading? Well, I have this wonderful little device here. It's called a telephone. Yeah, one of those things. And it's very easy to find out exactly what you sound like. All you have to do is hit this red button here down in the voice memo, and it goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm hearing my voice for the very first time right here on my phone." Of course, then you hit the stop button, and up here you hear the play button. "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm hearing my voice for the very first time right here on my phone." Sounds like a plan to me. How about to you? Don't forget, you don't exactly sound like what you think you sound like. And it may be a bit disconcerting from time to time. I know that it was for me when I was little. So what you do is you play that back over and over and over again, and make sure that you now understand what it is that you sound like when you do talk. Well, I see a lot of laptops and computers out there, so it's real easy. Even if you don't have a phone, you can always do it with a laptop or a computer as well. And here's another thing that you need: some water. Because sometimes you get it on your face and that'll make you giggle, and you'll start feeling a whole lot better about yourself. You can read anything, you can read magazines and books, a copy of that people online have written for lots of other things. You can also just make sure that what you're doing is spending time reading aloud, and you can do that with your textbook. the textbook is a wonderful thing to read out loud because you're learning two things. You're learning how to speak aloud, and you're learning what it is that you're supposed to be knowing for school. I can promise you right from the get-go that you may not like what you hear because a lot of things that you are hearing when you speak aloud are running through various holes in your head. Did you know you have holes in your head? You do. They're called sinus cavities, and they do change the way you sound to you, but not to other people. So you can have lots of fun discovering what it is that you actually sound like. And when you get that recording down and start feeling better about what it is that you're feeling, you can have a good time. So get out your iPad, get out your phone, get out your laptop. You're going to have fun. Now, has anyone ever told you that, hey, I'm not mad at you? Well, it was probably because maybe you did sound mad to them. Have you ever not quite figured out what it was that you wanted to say and that kind of messed things up, including your facial expressions? Oh, those can be awful. And other body movements, by the way, those are just as important. Even if this person that you're speaking to can't see your body language, your tone of voice will speak volumes to them and show how it is that you're doing something. So I want you to try something this week. Pick up an object, for instance, my glass of water here. Guess what? This particular object that I have in my hand is no longer what you think it is. It's a large gray mammal with a very long trunk. It has a big snout at the end of the trunk. There are 4 huge feet, right? Coming out of the bottom, and those feet are crunching, making a huge crunching sound when they walk through the forest. I am talking about a bottle or a glass of water? No, I'm talking about an elephant, right? Okay, this is something that I want you to try to take something else that you have in your hand and get the group or, the folks or your family to guess what it is that you're talking about. I promise it'll be a whole lot more fun than it sounds like right now. Just make sure you get a chance to talk with everybody and get different opinions about how this works. Okay, now let's take a look, first of all, at facial expressions. On the right of your screen, if you'll notice, some of them are very unhappy, right? If you'll notice, some of them are very happy as well. How do you understand which is which? Well, it's very simple. There's a mirror in your bathroom or probably in your room that you can use to make sure that you understand how you look when you're angry and how you look when you're really happy or when you're just kind of, isn't that interesting? All of these things will make sure that you will make good faces when you're trying to make a good point. You see what I'm saying? If I'm sitting here smiling at you and trying to tell you that this is a good thing, I have to look like it, right? Well, now all of a sudden, if you or somebody else like one of these people looks very, very unhappy or very shocked, and it's got a happy face on it, well, we're not talking about something happy, even though you may think so. So just remember, make the face on you match the abilities of the news that you're trying to deliver. Now, if you look at the girls on the top row on the right of your screen, you'll find one with her hands crossed in front of her and a big smile on her face. The next one, well, she looks a little unhappy. Boy, she's a little scared, right? What do I do for those who can't see her? Well, she's like got hands next to her face. She's got her eyes kind of crossed and she's like, oh no. And then the next one, she looks like she's very confident. She's got her hands on her hips, was probably a little bit more confident than you want to be around most people because you want them to be able to like you at the very same time. And if you're giving an image of being very, very sure of yourself and not coming across as someone who wants to be a friend, that can be a problem too. Then there's the far right lady over there. She looks bored. She looks like she doesn't care what's going on. This is one of the biggest problems that teenagers face. And why? Well, it's because they haven't figured out that you make sure that when you're feeling good, the person you're speaking with has to believe you. The person that you're next to also has to feel good as well. Now, sometimes you may get a little bit of pushback from people who say, you're always so happy. Well, yeah, that's a possibility. Don't you ever get unhappy? Things like that. Would you much rather be known for someone who is a happy person or an unhappy person? I'm pretty sure you'd like to be the happy one, right? Okay. Now, I'm going to head shake early. Yeah, okay. Now, the four girls on the bottom who are standing around, one of them is clearly very angry, and she's the one on the far left. She's got her hands in a fist. She's just, you can just tell that she's just unhappy at all. Yeah. Well, tell you what, she's not going to get anything but negative back from whomever she's working with. It's very simple. When you want to be open, happy, smiling, willing to accept what the other person is saying, you can open yourself up to these things. You know that, right? Yeah. She's got you, kind of closed off here. She's feeling like she's ready to listen, but she's not going to make a huge thing out of anything that you have to say. The girl on the bottom, the second from the left, is a very happy person. And I think she's the kind of person that you want to be or that you'd like to talk to. I think sometimes she gets a little too silly, but I think you'll have fun talking with her almost all the time. The girl next door on the right with her hands kind of outstretched, it would mean, and that would mean kind of look at her face right now. Probably not, because she feels like you're telling, she feels like to you're that certain girl, she's always being told bad news by you. Is that right? It certainly looks that way to me. All you have to do is look at her, and she's got the, what did I do look? What you did was you weren't open to people, and you have to be open to people so that they will listen to you and get the feeling they get that you can listen to them. The girl on the far right on the bottom, it's what we call attitude. And I'm sure none of you have ever had attitude, have you? That's right. We know that attitude comes from trying to figure out exactly what it is that you're going to say and be angry about next. Attitude doesn't work with parents, and it certainly doesn't work with your friends. So make sure that the attitude you portray, right, is a happy attitude. Those are the things when it comes to body language and facial recognition, you have to know. So keep a good eye on these people. They're the ones who are going to tell you exactly what it is that you want to do. It's very simple. You be a friend and you get friends back. Sometimes when you find your voice, you get into more than just the words. You consider the emotion you're trying to portray. Now, the inflection and the tone, even the accent you might use, are something that you have to find for yourself. Obviously, if you were born in a place outside Southern California, you may probably think that you have an accent that comes along with the place where you grew up. I think you will find yourself with a voice that says, yeah, I kind of know about this, and I'm willing to tell you about it, especially if I'm on stage giving a speech. So if you're in front of a class or you're in front of the whole school, you have the chance to find your voice. Now, how do you do that? First of all, you practice projecting your voice. It doesn't mean you have to shout. What it means is that you have to allow your voice to come out over the entire room. Sometimes that's more difficult than it sounds, but it also comes down to this. Make sure you're speaking directly out and not down or not up. Either way, those words are going to get lost in the ceiling or in the floor. Project out. Now, if you're standing on one side of your bedroom and your friend is on the other side, you want to be clearly heard. So you don't shout, you just talk and make sure that people are having a good time while they're talking. Just hang out with each other and say, I want to make sure that you can understand me, even though you're sitting across the room. So let's talk about things, and let's talk about them in a voice that allows us to be heard by the other person. Lots of exercises to do there, right? Now that you're getting a little bit comfortable with speaking, and I hope you are, because I hope you're doing some of these great exercises, you get a chance to give a speech in front of a class, sometimes as a homework assignment, or you'll even get a chance to give a valedictory speech. Now, wouldn't that be a cool thing? That means you're the head of the class. So one way or the other, you're going to have to do some public speaking. So let's not forget about the best kind of speaking. And that's the kind of speaking that allows you to sell more cookies. So much. One of the things that I want you to do is write out a speech for selling cookies. I want you to write down all the good things about the products that you sell as a Girl Scout. Make a list. Put some words between each one of the things in the list and say, and by the way, these cookies are really yummy. Anyway, my point is, we want to be able to sit down and talk to people about your cookie sales. And of course, your nuts and magazine sales as well. So I think it's a good time to sit down and write out some of the things that you and your friends are going to have to do to make sure you do a wonderful job of selling these products. I want you to be able to start out by writing something that's just 100 words long. Now, it sounds like an awful big thing, but with the selection of products you sell, it'll be incredibly easy, trust me. If you go over, then that'll be fine too. When you can get in with something that, a whole lot fancier, than you can talk about some of the things that you're going to do with those profits, and that's a good thing. Finally, let's get on stage. It's time to get in front of people and give a speech. Now, whether it's to all of your troop or just mom and dad, it doesn't make any difference. We want you to give those speeches to everybody that you can. So if you're starting out with a 50-word speech, give the 50-word speech to mom and dad. They'll be ready to listen, and they'll tell you whether or not they believed you after you've finished. So make sure that mom and dad get a chance to listen to you. As you get onto the 500-word script, you can have some fun trying to figure out all the people you can tell. And I think you'll probably find them. That should be a whole lot of fun. Now you're on stage using your script. Remember, this is one of the most fun parts of all of this right now. You always like being on stage? No, trust me, I don't either. But the reason for that is usually because I have a bad syndrome called stage fright. Oh boy, stage fright is a whole bunch of different things, but it boils down to the fact that you are incredibly uncomfortable speaking in front of people. It doesn't make any difference whether it's one person or 100 or even 1,000. Here's some things that you and I can do to make that speech a whole lot easier to give and you to feel better about you giving the speech. First of all, looking good is a good thing. That's right. When you look good, you feel more confident simply because you know you look good and other people will see that. But make sure that you know you're looking good and then practice, practice, practice. Practicing is one of the most difficult things to do, even when it comes to me, for instance. Now I'm sitting here. I've run through this speech probably 20 times, making sure that you understand what I'm doing. And yet I still get a chance to do a little bit of what you call ad-libbing. You get a chance to go off script a bit and say stuff that, wasn't written down. But when you practice, you get more confident at what it is that you're doing, more confident about your ability to bring your point, your sales point home. That's what it's all about. Also, let's see if you forget about you, the person, and concentrate on what your speech says. You can have a whole lot more fun giving a speech because now all of a sudden it isn't about you giving a speech, it's about the speech. I realize there's a little brain trick there, but on the other hand, it seems to work out really well before you go on stage. Take time to get some water, right? Brief walk, gesture, do all kinds of things to make sure that you don't get yourself into the mood, that you get yourself into the mood to give a speech. Don't move though, don't do move, but don't fidget. Do move, have some fun with the way you're talking to people. Learn how to smile. Yeah. Anyway, I think you'll find that you are engaged and very interesting when you do all of that. Now, one of the things I want you to do when you're feeling afraid of getting up on stage is visualizing yourself going through performance easy breezy. Get it, however, it doesn't always happen, but it does happen when you visualize yourself being happy about giving the speech. Your audience knows that you're a wonderful person and they wish you well. They really do. They want you to do very well. They want you to succeed. So pick out a friend in the audience whose face reminds you of that and makes you feel comfortable. Tell you what, you'll be a whole lot happier when you do. I used to be able to pick out a friend in the audience when I was giving speeches in college. I'd find another person in the audience and talk to them. They were smiling at me. I knew I had to be doing something right. Trust me, you get that feeling as well. Always remember, face your fears. Don't feed your fears. Admitting them out loud usually just makes you a whole lot more nervous. It's easy to focus on shortcomings that you think about and not let the rest of the afternoon or what your audience is thinking about who's going to succeed in public speaking. Spend a whole lot of time taking stock of what you're good at. Usually that becomes something that you're good at. That thing that you're doing is public speaking, right? Good. Now, every once in a while, we do something that we're not quite sure was the right thing to do. We hope we're going to be able to laugh it off. I have seen people make horrendous mistakes on stage, and instead of going, oh no, I made a huge mistake, they admit their mistake and they say, hey, let me start that again, slightly differently. And the people in the audience understand that even though it may have been a big mistake, at least you have the ability to recover. You can giggle about it and say, hey, I made a mistake. So go back, start where you know, make sure that you're happy and just easily pick it up again and start talking. You will connect with your audience. And when that happens, and you gain confidence that you need to be a good public speaker. By the way, you should also prepare physically as well as mentally. If you get a good night's sleep, you get some exercise the day before, to have a good breakfast that morning, just before you go on, have something with some protein in it and not too much sugar. Remember, a good breakfast and a good night's sleep. Even though I'm telling you, your first speech, you probably won't get that much rest, but do give it a shot. Those are the things that you can do to kind of get rid of all of your stage fright. Now, for the last part of this badge, you'll be using all the tips and tricks that I just shared with you to create a video for your virtual store. It might be some fall product for cookie sales, whatever is up next for you. Take some time to write a script for your video. Make sure you practice, and practice some more. You'll make mistakes, and that's okay. Redo your video until you're satisfied with it. Then you will add it to your store and send a copy to your troop leader, letting them know that you are doing your final step, the public speaker badge. Best of luck to you. Have a good time. Thanks for joining me.